COVID and heart health walk hand in hand. And believe it or not, potatoes play a significant role in managing heart health. Immaculate Zinde from Potatoes SA elaborates on this. Then Lisa Roberts chats to Ted Blom about the current energy crisis in South Africa and how this will affect grain storage in the future. But first, I'll bring you up to date with the latest agricultural news.
AGT Foods Africa, from producer to the world.
And in today's news, the Kimberley Diamond Mining Company, Ekapa, in cooperation with GWK, has stepped in to assist Northern Cape farmers in the wake of the recent devastating wildfires. It is estimated that more than 400,000 hectares have been destroyed by wildfires in the last few months. Ekapa and GWK have managed to build up an emergency crisis fund to the value of 2 million rand. The fund is aimed at assisting affected farmers and other community members. Agri Northern Cape will implement the project through the Agri Northern Cape Foundation. The Animal Feed Manufacturers Association has introduced a new affiliate membership category. This category aims to provide an opportunity for registered companies that provide a service to the feed industry to be affiliated with AFMA. These companies do not have to manufacture or trade in animal feed products. Qualifying businesses include consultation services in nutrition, manufacturing, or IT systems. Also included are analytical services, manufacturing equipment services, and other related industry associations. According to independent weather expert Johan van den Berg, the probability of a La Niña event has increased to about 80%. It is believed the event will remain prominent until March of 2022. This means that average to above average rainfall is expected over the central to eastern summer rainfall area during the first part of summer. It could also extend to the west during the mid to second part of summer. And that was today's news, but stay tuned for some insightful conversations.
Health experts have raised the red flag on the deadly connection between COVID-19 and heart disease, warning that a balanced, healthy diet is more important than ever for safeguarding your health, which is where the power of potatoes can play a vital role, believe it or not. Immaculate Zinde from Potato SA discusses this in detail with us. Immaculate, Potato SA has driven a heart healthy endorsement program. Tell us about that.
Well, as Potatoes South Africa, our role from a marketing perspective and generic promotion is to create awareness in South Africa, to drive educational campaigns around everything potatoes, and health and nutrition is one of the things that we've been battling with a little bit. Over the years, we've done research and we know for a fact that perceptions and attitudes are improving. And one of the ways of strengthening our education campaign was to get potatoes to be endorsed by the Heart and Stroke Foundation of South Africa. So after many research studies, we were able to get that endorsement, but there are prescripts, which we'll talk about later on.
Yes, well, good. How will this affect the potato industry?
I think this is good. It is the highest statement for potatoes as a product to be associated with products that can contribute towards fighting strokes and heart disease, which are the two leading causes of death in the world. And you can imagine now with COVID-19, the burden on the health system, it is important that we take that message out. Potatoes are affordable, they are versatile, but they are tasty too. So yeah, we think potatoes can contribute positively to fighting the scourge of COVID-19 and assist in helping people to lead a healthy lifestyle.
How will this connect with World Health Day?
So the month of September is Heart Awareness Month, and we are on digital platforms. We've partnered with health influencers, and we're trying to communicate that potatoes are actually healthy. They've got potassium, which is the powerhouse that makes sure that people can be prevented from getting heart diseases. 225 South Africans die on a daily basis from heart disease. And we know that by adopting a healthy lifestyle, these deaths can be prevented. And we are saying to South Africans out there, buy potatoes, make sure you keep the skins on, cook them well, dress them up in good, fresh quality herbs and spices, minimize salt intake, exercise, and just be happy.
Well, I'm glad that you touched on the way you cook potatoes, because I think that makes the difference. So how and in what form do potatoes improve health?
I think everything that is drenched in oil, that is drenched in unhealthy ingredients, is bound to lead to some form of health complications. We know for a fact that the majority of the nutrients that are found in potatoes lie in the skin. And funny enough, we've been brought up to peel the skin. And now we are saying to consumers, keep the skin on. That's where the nutrients lie. But over and above that, everything in moderation. I mean, in South Africa, we are known for loving our slab chips. I mean, they are so lekker. But, once in a while, it's okay. It can't be that every day people are eating in an unhealthy manner. Make sure that the plate is a rainbow, plate with all the colors. We are not even, as Potato South Africa, discriminating against other vegetables. Have your tomatoes on a plate. Have your cabbage. Make sure that potatoes are the hero carb. Boil, bake. And you can air fry if really truly
That's
you
it,
want.
with the skin on. Lovely. Wedges.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, innovation has helped us to cook better and to still get that greasy taste if we want that in our diets, but still remain healthy.
Thank you for being here and
thank
sharing the good
you.
news with us.
Thank you for having me.
So there we have it. Even potatoes can be good for heart health, but it depends how you cook them.
Goeiemôre kykers, grane en oliesade het verlede week goed gedoen op die termynmarkverlewering in Desember. Pryse is redelik ondersteun deur die verswakking in die rand en dis die stygings in die pariteitspryse. Witmielie-prys vir Desember het week op week met 3% gestyg, terwyl die geelmielie-prys met 3.7% op is en die koringprys met 1.9%. Daar was 'n baie skerp styging in die sonneblomprys van 5.1%, waar die prys op R10.180 per ton bring. Sojabone se prys het egter 'n bietjie teruggesak met 0.4%. Die olieprys het skerp gestyg die afgelope week met 3.2%. Dit het egter op $79.52 per vat gaan draai voordat weer effens teruggesak het op Vrydag. Die rand het dan ook verswak teenoor vernaamste wisselkoerse, 2.2% swakker teenoor die dollar, 0.8% swakker teenoor die pond en 1.1% swakker teenoor die euro.
The theme of today's panel discussion at the Grain Symposium is the cost of grain storage beyond 2021. And I'd like to talk to Ted Blom, one of the panel members, and he's consultant in mining and energy, and his topic was future trends in administered electricity prices. And I think when we hear electricity, we see black, Ted. Thank you for joining me. You had a very strong view as far as climate change is concerned and who is responsible for it. If you'd like to share that with us.
Okay, so I come from the coal industry, which goes hand in hand with electricity in South Africa especially. And the issue of carbon taxes have been around for a long time, more than 30 years. And they've now eventuated. We're now paying carbon tax. And the other issue that was topical for the last 30 odd years was global warming. And that's where the argument started. And that made me do a little bit of research as to what's going on and where does this noise come from. And it then seemed to me that the forces behind global warming are not completely innocent in what they are trying to achieve. They bludgeoned us with the topic of global warming and that we must now take action to stop the global warming. And then some professors in Australia, amongst other places, started doing some more research. And as any statistician or economist will tell you, the slope of your graph is very dependent on when you start the graph. And the global warming protagonists all started their graphs around about 1979. And if you take that as your starting point, then the temperatures do seem to have increased over time. But if you go back a little bit further to the different ages, the ice age and the warmer ages and so on, then 1979 is a blip. It's a few years ago. And there's no rationale for using 79 as your starting point. With that, when that argument started to come to the fore, the global warming protagonists quickly changed their tune to climate change. And then you've got to ask yourself, well, how much influence does man have on climate? Because yes, we occupy, if you put us back to back, we probably occupy less than 10% of the Earth's surface. The oceans are occupying 70%, and the fact that the land mass is in 30%, and we don't fill the land. I mean, there's lots of open spaces. I then started doing a little bit further research, and it came to me that one volcanic eruption on one day squirts out more carbon than what all of man and animal kind can disperse in a year. So it then led me to try and fathom out what's behind this argument. And really the reason why the politicians have embraced it is because it gives them another lever to tax people. And as you know, governments want to tax more and more and more. And in fact, they'll tax us more than we earn if we let them. And so together with that, I then looked at where South Africa lies in terms of energy intensity. And because we're a commodities market and we export a lot of our minerals, we are very energy intensive. In fact, if you scale it per country, South Africa is in the top 3 of energy intensive countries in the world. And if you take it according to GDP, and our GDP is not that big, then we are first in the world in terms of energy intensivity. So if you are selling solar panels and windmills, and you can embrace the so-called climate change or global warming argument, your biggest customer, your most vulnerable customer has got to be South Africa.
Right.
So, and in terms of size, it's also the easiest market to access because you've got very few people whose hands you need to grease to get changes being enforced on people.
Ted, I'd like to move on. Carbon and governments. That's another serious topic.
Of course. So why has carbon been held out as the baddie? Carbon, your body and my body consists of water and carbon. And so does all human bodies. Carbon has been chosen as the baddie because it's easy to measure. If you take a kilogram of coal, you know exactly how much carbon and how much other material is in that. And coal being used as a fossil fuel for electricity in most countries, it's very easy to calculate how much tax you can derive out of that. So I think it's a fact that intensive farmers who do tunnel farming, in fact, inject carbon dioxide into their tunnels to promote growth. So if carbon was so disastrous for the environment, why is it good for our plants and our produce that we want to grow? If one takes the argument wider and says, well, you know, it's part of the pollution. Yes, it comes out of the chimney with pollutants. And I'm not in favor of any of the other pollutants. I don't want to die from nitric acid poisoning or sulfur dioxide poisoning. And I don't want my children and my neighbors to have the same afflictions. So I'm against contamination, but there are processes available today that do contaminant capture in excess of 90%. So I think by pointing to carbon as the baddie, we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And we will regret that, because there's not one economy in the world that has transcended to renewable energy where the prices of electricity have come down. Notwithstanding, every place you go to, they'll tell you that renewable energy is cheaper. On its own, it's cheaper. But as soon as you have to add backup and storage to make it dispatchable, it becomes 10 times more expensive. You've seen that in Australia, where the prices of peak electricity have gone up more than 10-fold. You've seen that in Europe, you've seen it in America. And I predict that in South Africa, if we are under our monopolistic structure, if we're not careful, our peak tariffs will go up more than 100-fold.
I'd like to get back to the actual grain symposium we had today and the grain storage sector. As you explained during today's presentation, the future with Eskom looks grey. So we'll have to make other plans. What now for the grain storage and the future? What would you recommend?
So I would say that for anybody who has the financial capacity to do so, the wise thing would be to get off the grid. Eskom is in a meltdown, it's in a debt spiral. I mean, as I indicated today, if Eskom wants to pay its debt off in 1 year, they'll have to increase the prices more than threefold, more than 300%. And even then, you haven't covered the operating costs of Eskom. So just to pay the debt. The situation with the corruption at Eskom is not improving, despite a lot of noise to the contrary. Nobody has been charged. There's nobody in jail today, notwithstanding Thuli Madonsela's report of 2016, which is 5 years ago. In 5 years, there's not one person who's in jail, and very little has been recovered. My estimate is that more than 800 billion rand has been stolen through excess tariffs, etc. And that has been funneled through the power stations, through excessive coal prices, through paying 29 rand for a toilet roll, through to paying 280,000 rand for a mop, through to paying 80-odd thousand rand for knee guards and stuff like that. It's just preposterous. So I think that the only way out, and the municipalities are also being penalized by Eskom and forced to melt down. So I think that if you want to be sustainable and not fall with the rest of the crowd, you need to take measures, urgent measures, to get off the grid. And I think that one needs to do so very diligently and with circumspect, because once again, there are too many salesmen chasing too few deals and too many fly-by-night operators. I think that one can sensibly bring down your electricity costs by rescheduling your organization. If you don't need to work in peak times, don't work in peak times. Rather, I mean, to transfer grain from a railway or a truck to a silo doesn't have to happen in daylight. It can happen after peak hours, after 9 o'clock at night. I mean, the breweries work 24 hours a day. Mines work 24 hours a day. So I think just by reorganizing your activities, you can cut down your electricity costs phenomenally. On top of that, grain is a seasonal product. If you're using Eskom power, you're paying your penalties for maximum demand for 12 months. You use it in 1 month, and for 12 months you are penalized by Eskom for using excess electricity. So that is, creates an ideal opportunity to rationalize your electricity costs. And then if you then put your own installation in, you need to just be very careful how much you capitalize into your electricity installation. Because again, if you're only using power intensively for 1 month of the year, and you capitalize at that rate, you're going to be wasting capacity for 11 months of the year. You need to find other alternatives. Maybe you can feed it into the grid, sell it into Eskom, but you need to do so under a very balanced situation, because just standing still, before you use any power, most people are faced with a connection charge that is more than the actual consumption charges over the period of time. So I think the whole negotiating table needs to be rebalanced so that you are not penalized by a monopoly that has total disregard for market forces.
Ted, thank you very much. There's lots to think about and lots to plan for the future, especially for the grain storage facilities, for their future and their challenges with electricity. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
And that was Ted Blom.
Goeiemôre, ek is Jean de Villiers en hier volg die veilings vir die opkomende 2 weke. Ons kop die veilingskalender op die 6de Oktober met Endele Simmentallers se produksieveiling af. Die veiling sal deur Karoo Oes op die Plaas self in Markwart gehou word. Die aanbod op die veiling sluit 30 bulle en 30 vroulike diere in. Dan op die 7de Oktober hou Meerkat Online Auctions 'n staakboerdery veiling in opdrag van Dries Steyn. Hierdie veiling sal op Goliathskraal in Kroonstad plaasvind en sluit verskeie trekkers, implemente en toerusting in. Dan op die 13de Oktober het ons 'n redelike voldag met 3 veilings wat plaasvind op die dag. Die eerste veiling vir die 13de Oktober is II Simmentallers se 19de produksieveiling. Hierdie veiling word by die Willemrandstad skougronde in die Noordwes provinsie deur André Kok en Seun aangebied. Die aanbod op die veiling sluit 25 bulle en 35 vroulike diere in. Dan ook op die 13de Oktober hou Freddie Makram Cheroleys sy produksieveiling. Hierdie veiling word deur KLK by die KLK veilingskrale in Kuruman aangebied. En die aanbod op die veiling sluit 26 bulle in. Swaargekons maras en rooipoort poenskoppe hou ook op die 13de Oktober hulle 10de produksieveiling. Die veiling word deur BKB op Rooipoort Swaarsoek in Kraddock aangebied met Jackie Nel as die afslaer op die dag. Die aanbod op die veiling sluit 22 pons mara bulle, 70 vroulike diere en 40 poenskop merino ramme in. Ons sluit dan die week se veilingskalender met Creer en LHB Bonsmaras se gesamentlike produksieveiling wat op die 14de Oktober plaasvind af. Die veiling word deur Vleisentraal Bloemfontein op Waterpas Laagte in Boshoff aangebied. Die aanbod op die veiling sluit 60 SP bulle, 50 vroulike diere en 300 kommersiële vroulike diere in.
Burback, shaping the future of animal health.